Most people think health begins in a doctor's office. It doesn't. By the time health shows up in a doctor's office, it is usually there to negotiate the terms of its surrender. We treat health like a rental deposit, something we start with, slowly lose, and eventually sign over to professionals. I never signed. I'm turning 49 this year, and in my family, that number comes with a countdown. My great grandfather's heart quit at 65. My grandfather made it to 74, the last stretch stolen by a cancer that had moved into his bones. My father had a heart attack at 60, a quadruple bypass shortly after, and was gone at 66. My mother is still here, carrying extra weight and high blood sugar, operating on the theory that a number you never measure cannot hurt you. My grandmother made it to 91, the exception. Though she spent those extra decades on beta blockers and cholesterol pills, monitoring her blood pressure anxiously like it was a second job. So the women in my family live long and anxious, and the men die early and surprised. Which leaves me with the question I have been testing for 25 years on the only subject I have. Can you refuse an inheritance? Hold that question. Because the answer is not what you think, and it does not live where you think either. Here's what makes it urgent. The countdown is no longer just in the old photographs. My own classmates and colleagues, people my age, are already collecting statins and blood pressure prescriptions like stamps. They call it maintenance medicine. No judgment. Medication is not a moral failure. But nobody plans to become a patient. It just happens, quietly, somewhere in middle age, while you're busy assuming health is something you still have. I watched that happen to enough people I love, so I decided to become difficult about it. Here is what being difficult looks like at 7:30 in the morning. I sit in lotus and spend 15 minutes deliberately interfering with the one system in my body that runs fine without me. Breathing. Breath of fire. 30-second holds on empty lungs. Rapid tumo rounds. Bellows breathing. Alternate nostril work. And to close, humming like a bee with somewhere to be. Why breath? Because it is the only dial on the nervous system that ships with a manual override. Every other organ ignores your opinions. The breath takes requests. Fast breathing turns me up. Slow breathing, long exhales, and humming turn me down. So by 7:45, I am not waiting to find out what kind of day this will be. I have already decided. I did not learn any of that from a study. I learned it by doing it, as taught to me by adepts who shared their wisdom with me, and the studies wandered in years later as they do. That, it turns out, is the pattern of my entire life. Intuition first, practice second, results third, and then, a decade or two later, a peer-reviewed paper clears its throat and announces my morning routine as a discovery. I was meditating in my 20s before mindfulness had a billing code. I was using movement to repair my own head before exercise for mental health was a respectable sentence. I was practicing deliberate breathing before nervous system regulation became an industry with a conference schedule. And the strangest thing I do, I have been doing for 25 years, since before it had a brandable name. Hold on, we will get there. I am not claiming I invented any of this. Humans have known it for thousands of years. I am saying the experts arrived at my house 20 years late, holding a clipboard, and called it new. Science is how we check our intuition, and I am glad it exists. But somewhere along the way, we adopted a strange rule. Nothing you feel is real until someone else confirms it. Which is odd, considering you live in your body full-time and your doctor visits it for 15 minutes a year. 3 mornings a week, there is a rubberized track in a park near my home, and on it, a 49-year-old man who appears to be running for his life. Because he is just on a longer timeline than it looks. 8 sprints, 20 seconds each. Everything I have, then 90 seconds to remember who I am. By round 7, the speed is gone, and only the effort is left. That is the part I came for. During those 20 seconds, there is no family history, no countdown, no abstract dread about aging. There is only breath, speed, and the ground. Sprinting is the one meditation I have never once been distracted during. The practical reason I sprint is to keep my heart, lungs, and legs convinced they are still needed. The real reason is that it reminds me I'm alive. Now, most people think exercise is a thing you schedule, an hour, in special clothes, that gets cancelled when life gets busy. That is the second misconception. A workout is an appointment. Movement is supposed to be a habitat. So every 2 hours, I stop whatever I'm doing, hang from a pull-up bar for 2 full minutes, then hold a handstand against the wall for 2 more. I call them fitness snacks. My grip gets fed every 2 hours, whether it is hungry or not. The hang feeds my grip and shoulders. The handstand asks me to carry my own weight and meet gravity from the opposite direction, which I recommend as a philosophical exercise. If I have not hit my 550 calorie movement target by evening, I add pull ups, handstand push ups, wall walks, or L sit holds. I walk 5 to 7,000 steps. And every single day, I dance for 15 or 20 minutes because a body that can only be serious is only half trained. None of this looks heroic. That is the design. Heroic collapses in a month. Boring compounds for decades. On paper, my week is a contradiction. 3 times a week, usually on sprint days, 15 minutes of Baduanjin Qigong. 4 times a week, 30 minutes of vigorous Vinyasa yoga. At night, relaxed stretching, plus a patient campaign toward front and side splits, because I have apparently decided 49 is the perfect age to start. Sprinting and Qigong should have nothing in common. One is explosive, the other moves like honey. One demands everything I have, the other asks only for attention. The contradiction is the point. I am not training a skill, I am training range. Can I be explosive on demand? Can I be still on demand? Can I sit with discomfort without panic and with boredom without twitching? Can I catch tension early and release it before it starts making decisions on my behalf? Longevity is not about maximizing one quality. It is about refusing to surrender any of them. I want speed and stillness, strength and flexibility, intensity and recovery, effort and awareness. The whole keyboard, not one loud note. And this is where I should mention my head. I was depressed from my early teens into my 20s. In my 30s, ADHD, and every psychiatrist I sat across from seemed to run the same operating system: describe the mind, prescribe the molecule. I took Adderall for 3 years. Here's my review. A pill can rent you a state of mind. It cannot teach you how to build one. Movement taught me how to build one. When I move, my restless energy finally has a job. Rumination gets interrupted mid-sentence. Anxiety runs out of breath before I do. And movement hands me back the one thing the waiting room takes away: agency. It is something I can do today instead of something I hope arrives in the mail. And meditation taught me the other half: how to watch a thought arrive without saluting it. ADHD can feel like being dragged behind your own attention. Vipassana did not erase that. It changed my seat. I used to be dragged. Now, most days, I hold the leash. The morning routine says, wake up. The night routine says, let go. Every night, 15 minutes of lazy stretching, 10 minutes of humming Om. Then, slow breathing, 4 seconds in, 4 held, 8 out, then 15 minutes of sitting still, minding my own mind. I am in bed by 10. I wake around 7:30 without an alarm, which I consider the most underrated biomarker in existence. That is about 8 hours, of which my watch credits 6 as quality and nearly 3 as deep. When the deep sleep number disappoints, I take a 90-minute nap the next afternoon, which sounds indulgent until you remember that training only writes the request. Recovery is where the body signs it. Yes, I wear a sleep tracker. I read it the way you read a weather forecast, with interest, not obedience. The questions that actually matter are simple. Did I wake restored? Can I focus? Is my mood stable? Do I have the energy to train? Right now, every answer is yes. I eat like someone your nutritionist was warned about, and I have for about 10 years. On a typical day, 400 grams of red meat, 4 eggs, and 1 serving of vegetables as a diplomatic gesture. Milk or cheese 3 times. Natto 5 times. Duck liver and tripe at the weekly hot pot date with my wife, plus a probiotic yogurt I culture myself. All of it inside a 5-hour window with one sweet thing a week, because a discipline with no exit is just a prison with good macros. No ultra-processed anything. No grains, no legumes, no nuts. No alcohol, no caffeine, no cigarettes, and so far, no prescriptions. Which brings me to the strange habit I promised you. Twice a year, I stop eating entirely for 5 to 7 days, water only. I started in 2001, back when the word autophagy was minding its own business in a biochemistry textbook, decades away from becoming a podcast segment. First, it was strange. Then, it was extreme. Now, it is content. Same habit, 3 rebrands, and I never changed the thing. And to be clear, I do not fast to apologize for careless eating. The fast is not a confession booth. It belongs to the same discipline as everything else: deliberate consumption, patience, and close attention to what my body does next. Is all of this proven to extend life? No, and I refuse to pretend otherwise. My fasts do not come with a certificate. What they come with is 25 years of careful observation of the one body I will ever get, a longitudinal study with a sample size of exactly the person I care about most. I still measure, by the way, blood pressure, blood work, DEXA scans. Not because I doubt my intuition, but because measurement is how intuition stays honest. Get your baseline from a professional, then take the wheel back. So, can you refuse an inheritance? Here's my answer. I do not know. Nobody does. No routine makes you immortal, and no expert can promise you Tuesday. But I was asking the wrong question all along. The question is not how long I will live. It is how long I will remain strong, mobile, clear, and fully present in my own life. Not lifespan, health span. And that experiment does not report its results on my death certificate. It reports every morning. Did I wake with energy? Can I outrun my anxiety? Am I present with my wife, or merely in the room? By those measures, the results are already in. I cannot rewrite the men in my family, but when I look at them, I do not see destiny. I see a warning delivered 3 times at ascending volume. So no, I refuse to wait until I am sick to become interested in health. I refuse to outsource my body to 15 minutes a year. I refuse to treat aging as something that happens to me, rather than something I negotiate with daily, at full speed, on a rubber track. And I refuse to read my family tree as a prophecy. It is a warning label, not a script. The routine will evolve, the evidence will shift, my body will change, and I will keep listening. But the practice stays the same. Move intensely. Recover deliberately. Pay attention. Measure what matters. And begin again tomorrow.